What's up everyone, Fast Eddie here, and this video is going to be about the dumbest beginner bikes. The dumbest beginner bikes are sport bikes, and specifically 600cc or more sport bikes. And what I mean by sport bikes is full fairing, full plastic, with clip-ons, absolute, no kidding sport bikes. And these are all the reasons why. Number one, you have clip-ons, right? You don't have actual handlebars. So it's kind of hard to see, but this is the triple clamp that connects the forks together, right? And the same triple clamp is right here, but handlebars are actually above it, and it's one straight bar. It's actual handlebars, so you're more upright. Like my bike is a naked upright bike. So automatically your comfort is so much better. If you have actual clip-ons, so they're clipped down to the tops of the forks right below the triple clamp. So you cut this in half, right? You just take the handlebars, you take them off, and you clip them on just to the top of the forks. So now they're angled at a crazy angle. You're more leaned forward, and you're just like, and the handlebars barely turn. They have like a turning radius of about 3 inches, and you already get to full lock. So it's very difficult to do anything. The positioning, and because of that extreme position, you're like, oh my gosh, your back hurts, all your weight's on your wrist, you have to do a whole lot of work with your legs. And keep in mind, my first bike was a CBR 1000. So I know exactly what the heck this feels like, and it's absolutely uncomfortable as crap. So once I went from a CBR 1000, a couple bikes later, I finally went to a speed triple, and I was upright with an actual handlebar. I'll never buy another sport bike again. So number one, full fairing, 100% sport bike, 600cc or more. I see people buy this as their first bike, just like I did, and it's the dumbest thing you could do. And these are more reasons why. So clip-ons, those are terrible. There's no need. Those are absolutely terrible for the street, for the track, for anything. It's just pointless. Next, like I mentioned, is the positions, right? So think about the design of a sport bike. Why is it designed the way it is? It's meant to be in a position that you're supposed to be riding in. So you want to be like this. Your back is angled, your arms are bent, right? Knees up against the tank. This is the way the bike was designed to be made. A lot of people ride around like this though. I call it like the Lion King syndrome, right? The arms perfectly straight. Well, I got a sport bike, wrists are bent, your arms hurt, wrists hurt, like, I got a sport bike, rev my engine with my exhaust, right? So it's meant to be bent, bring down. That was the purpose of the bike. So think about full fairing, no kidding sport bikes like this, right? So most bikes are either comfortable or they're very designed around performance. No kidding sport bikes, they're like almost all performance. There's zero comfort. So street riding, luggage, passengers, low speed maneuvers, you practice MotoJitsu, it's not meant to do this stuff. You can do it, of course, just like you could go running with dress shoes on, but it's probably not gonna work out too well. So the position is just absolutely terrible. So I test rode a 2018 S1000RR, and I have a video about it, but even after 30 seconds of not constantly squeezing my legs just to keep the weight off my hands, it's automatically just so uncomfortable. Your wrists and your forearms, it's just bad. Keep in mind, so if you're like, oh, I think I want to get a sport bike, and that's your first bike, right? A 600cc or more full fairing sport bike. I'm not talking about an R3, because that's a 300cc bike. I'm not talking about naked bikes. I'm not talking about an upright 500cc bike. Just full fairing, full plastic, clip-on 600cc or more sport bikes. So if you think you want one, I recommend you do this. If you have a buddy that has a sport bike, borrow it and see if you can ride around for a couple hours just to see how terrible it actually is. Then go to twistedroad.com or eaglerider.com. You can rent a motorcycle for a day and then ride it around, see how it actually feels. Because you realize very quickly there's no place for luggage. If you have a passenger, it's extremely uncomfortable for the passenger as well. And if you try to do a U-turn with the handlebars that go full lock in about 3 seconds, or just bam, full lock, you don't actually have any room to turn. Unlike the handlebars, we actually have handlebars, they turn a little bit more, right? This right here, LYL. So the purpose thing about the position is it's gonna limit your riding. If you're on a bike like this, like my buddy David, he has a R6. He is extremely limited because it's the bike. And now I know I say, once you get your skill high enough, the bike becomes irrelevant. Yes, but if I jump on his R6 and I do some MotoJitsu drills, it's gonna be a little bit more challenging on my bike just because of its position. So it's limiting his ability to really unlock his potential, like I say in MotoJitsu, like the back of my patch, unlock his potential to learn and to have a bike that's more forgiving and that's easier to ride physically, right? Because there's so many different reasons, but it limits you. It will limit your learning, it will limit your growth. That's why I think it's a dumb bike to buy a sport bike as a first bike. Next, it's heavy, between 300 or 400 pounds or more. There's like 100 plus horsepower. So even a GSXR 600 has 100 plus horsepower. So both those things put together as a brand new rider, it doesn't make any damn sense whatsoever. It's very, very unforgiving. You make a mistake or do something too fast, on that powerful bike with that much weight and you're a new rider, that's not the smart thing to do. You're gonna be nervous on the bike because the bike is heavy and it is powerful, so it is powerful, so you're not gonna give you confidence to actually go and try things, right? Even if you're taking a bunch of courses, you're not practicing, it's still gonna be very limiting in your ability. The bike is gonna hold you back a lot because it's very, very heavy, it's very, very powerful. You're gonna make mistakes, that's guaranteed 100% for sure, and it's just gonna be amplified because you're on this such heavy, powerful bike and you're a new rider. Your confidence will drain, you will not be a confident, inspiring bike, it's gonna be a limiting confidence bike. And like I mentioned, your turning radius is very, very short, it's very shallow. You're not gonna be able to turn the handlebars much at all. And plus they're expensive, they could be expensive. And remember again, 600cc or more full fairing, no kidding sport bike, they can be expensive. And if you can't, if you don't have enough money to at least go buy, I'm not saying you have to do this, but if you don't even have enough money to pay for like half of it upfront cash, well then you probably can't afford it either. Just think of the monthly payments and the insurance you have to buy and you're gonna have to get for a no kidding sport bike like that. It's gonna be really expensive. More reasons why it's dumb. Now why in the world do people buy this bike? So I want you to really think about this. If this is your first bike, just like that was my first bike, I want you to take a moment and to be honest with yourself. Who cares about anybody else? I don't care what you tell your friends or what you tell the group or the group rider in. I have an R6 and my riding ability is 7 out of 10. I don't care what you lie to other people about. Be honest with yourself for a moment. Just like I was honest with myself. And I'm gonna tell you my story, right? CBR 1000, I wanted to fit in. I was still in the Marines. I bought a 2012 CBR 1000 RR, my first bike. I wanted to be like one of the guys. I didn't want anybody to look at me and be like, oh, look at this wussy. He only has a 600, you know, he can't handle 1,000, he's not good, he's about. And those things are true. I wasn't good and I couldn't handle it, but I didn't want anybody to think that. I wanted people to believe that I was one of the guys. I wanted to be cool. Well, I got a sport bike like everybody else got a sport bike. There was no books to read. There was no Fast Eddie on YouTube to watch. There was no one to get advice from that actually knew what the hell they're talking about. So I just did what I saw. I just wanted to be like everybody else. I didn't want to be the oddball. I was so worried about fitting in. So I bought that bike as my first bike, right? Stupid. So my CBR 1000, right? Then I crashed on it because I sucked and almost died, went face first to a rock wall. You can watch the video I have on that. And I sold that, I got a 700 GS, a BMW 700 Dual Sport GS. But then I was like, oh, now I'm not fast anymore. I want to go fast. So then I bought a Hayabusa. So look at my mentality. I'm not the smartest person in the world, right? So look at my mentality. I wanted to go fast. So like, not gonna get a Hayabusa. So CBR 1000, crashed it, 700 GS, now Hayabusa. So not the smartest guy in the world. But it was still because of the same reasons. I didn't realize the bike was not limiting me on being fast. It was me limiting me. I just wasn't good enough to actually go fast. Sure, going on the highway or going in a straight line, but so what about that, right? If you want to be fast and you think a fast bike is gonna do it, you have a very misguided, you've been misled by a lot of damn people, okay? So for example, there's a guy here in San Diego who has an R3. It's a stock, I think 2016, 17 R3. 100% stock, brakes, suspension, everything is stock. And he can outride and ride faster and quicker than, I don't know, 80, 90% of the people in San Diego that I've seen riding. I've seen him ride. I've seen, like he comes around the corner, right? Then down the straightaway, like we're parking over here, and then 5-10 seconds later, then finally he comes the bikes that he was leading the ride on. And these are S1000Rs, these are R1s, these are Sherby 1000s. These are really high-end leader, Ducati, whatever the heck, 1000cc sport bikes, and he's leading the fast group on an R3. Right? There's also another guy, he has a DRZ 400 Supermoto, another bike that's completely stock. He lives in San Diego. This dude will also outride almost anybody there is. 80, 90%, 95% of the riders out there. He's just better. He's a better rider. So if you want to be faster, like going through the corners, the bike is not limiting your ability to go faster because you have a skill speed limit. If you take an R3 and go through a corner, if you can only go 40, well guess what? A 600, an R6, 600cc sport bike is not going to allow you to go any faster through that corner. You're still going to go 40 through the corner because that is your skill. That's all your skill allows you to go through there. But now if you make a mistake on an R3, you're a little bit too hard on the gas, too hard, you know, a little lighter bike, it's easier to maneuver, confidence inspiring, more forgiving. You make a mistake on R6, heavier bike, way more power. That's why it's a stupid idea to get that bike for a sport bike. Just a lot of people are just very misinformed. They're not honest with themselves and they spend all this money and do all these different things to try to fit in. So if you want more advice about how to actually pick out a bike and what's a good bike and what's not a good bike and what I recommend, in my second book, The Road to Mastery, I have a whole entire chapter about all the things I've learned about buying bikes, selling bikes, all the money I lost trading in bikes, buying stuff for the bike like exhausts. I bought $5,000 of exhaust on all my previous bikes before, and I realized I was still a crappy rider because I thought, not because I thought I was going to do anything for my safety, which it doesn't, but I wanted to be cool. I bought the exhaust because everybody else has an exhaust, and I kept on getting asked, hey bro, when are you going to get a new pipe? You should get exhaust on that bike. That was the advice I was given, right? So I did it. I was like, well, I guess I have to get exhaust. Everybody else has an exhaust. Again, I wanted to fit in. I didn't want people to look at me and say, oh, look at this guy. He still has a stock exhaust, right? But then I realized after taking more courses and practicing more, I don't say anything to anybody. I don't walk up to people and start lecturing people about what they're doing right or wrong or what they're wearing. It's your life. Do whatever you want to do. But then people started recognizing that I was getting better on the bike, and they would come up to me and ask for advice. I don't have to say a word to anybody. And now my bike is 100% stock, just like my last couple bikes have been stock, because all that stuff is pointless. My goal is to be a really good rider. I care less about fitting in, nor I care if you like the bike or don't like the bike or what I'm wearing. You can look the other way for all I care. You see what I'm saying? So I just learned to stop, to have a disconnect, to like cut the umbilical cord of I was just tethered to people's opinions, like what, I bought the bike and the gear and the parts of the bike because of what people expected me to do, not because I actually knew anything, because I was just so very ignorant, you see what I'm saying? Next, so someone told me this a long time ago, so learn to ride a slower bike fast because the opposite never works. Take an R3, take a DRZ4 and a Supermoto, take whatever. I got a couple videos about a whole bunch of bikes that I recommend for beginner riders, which is pretty much just 500 cc's or less. There's a bunch of different varieties. That video's coming out. So that's a lot of reasons why. There's probably more reasons why. People will say all kinds of things, but that's probably the underlining factor. What you see on the surface, there's probably a lot more reasons deep down, if you're actually honest with yourself, behind the curtain, right? Just like it was with me. Also keep in mind, like I mentioned, so beginner sport bikes, if it's 500 pounds or more, I don't even recommend getting that bike as well. This is just too heavy of a bike if you're a beginner rider. And if you have a naked upright bike, like I mentioned, then so it's a little bit different. If you have a full fairing R6, full fairing no kidding sport bike, that's a very different bike than like a Triumph Street Triple, where it's upright, still a 600cc bike, but the power is different. You're in a better position. The handlebars work different. I mean, you still have the power if you wanted to, but it's way more forgiving than trying to get on the bike, mainly because of the position you're in and the limitation you're gonna be on for that bike. Another thing about cruisers, so I'm not just picking on sport bikes, so think about cruisers. Also, it's gonna limit your ability to learn. You have extremely low ground clearance, so if you're trying to learn to go through corners, you have a cruiser bike and that's what you wanna do, you're gonna start scraping your hard parts very quickly, which may be good or may be bad, it all depends. It will teach you that cruiser bikes are actually more important to have a really good body position because you're gonna be scraping your hard parts very quickly, right? So you have to learn how to get your upper body off to the inside of the bike in order for the bike to be more upright to gain that ground clearance up, right? But either way, with full body position, you're going all the way through the corner. If you're at a certain pace, the bikes are still gonna be scraping. Because if you remember my chart a couple slides ago, those bikes are mainly comfort and they're not really performance. So you have to really look around. If you want a performance and comfortable bike, those exist, but you have to do some shopping, right? Don't just jump into a bike. And plus, usually cruiser bikes are pretty heavy. And again, 500 pounds or more, 500 cc's or more, something like that, I just don't recommend it. And of course, there's always exceptions, right? If you're 6'4" and 240 pounds, you're not gonna go jump on an R3. You can, but it's not gonna fit you. You're not gonna try to fit on a tiny little bike and your knees are above your ears, right? Because you're like, well, I have to get an R3, I'm 6'4" and 240 pounds. No, obviously get a bike that fits you. That still doesn't mean you have to get the biggest, heaviest bike there is. There's a lot of options. Just do your research and search for the bike, right? Last thing to think about, so every time I go to a bike night, probably 90% sport bikes. Go on group rides, go out riding in San Diego, sport bikes all over the place. Come to practice sessions, people on really heavy cruisers, they could barely pick the bike up. They have absolutely no ability how to do U-turns, or on sport bikes, they're very, very limited to their skill. And a lot of people on sport bikes, because they think about the reasons. Why am I getting this bike? I see everybody else get the bike, so that's why I want to buy it. But it may not be what you actually want. It may be what your friends expect you to get, but you have to kind of take a step back and think about this before you get into a contract or spend all this money on a bike that may not be good for you. You have to think about, what do you actually want? What is your goal with this bike? What do I want to do with this thing? Just go back and forth to work? Just commute back and forth to work, that's it. I don't care about going to the twisty roads, I don't care about anything else. Well, it's probably not a smart idea to buy a $15,000 bike then. I don't know, maybe you just have money, but most people don't, right? So just keep in mind, I see so much potential when people are on a bike. I'm like, man, this guy really wants to learn. He's taking a bunch of courses, he's out here practicing a lot, but because of the bike, he's so limited. That bike is preventing him from doing a lot better. If I would just take the rider off of this bike and put him on a different bike, oh my gosh, it'd be so much better. Another really good example is one of my blue belts named Brian. He had a GSXR 600, or maybe it was a 750 even, and he rode on and crashed that bike and everything else, and now he's got a 390 Duke. He's gonna be damn near testing out for black belt probably by the end of this year. It just skyrocketed his ability to learn and get way better, way quicker on that bike because of the limitations that it has because of the clip-ons and everything else. So it's something to consider. All right, everybody, thanks so much for watching. Again, here are my 2 books. Make sure you subscribe and share the video with others to maybe, hopefully, prevent people from making the same mistakes I did. Buying all these sport bikes without having any real counter opinion. Because most of the time, if you guys didn't realize, a lot of my videos, it goes against what most people think and what most people believe. Because there's no voice saying the opposite thing. So a lot of times the river of all the fish is going this way, of all the riders, and I'm like the one going the opposite direction to try to wake people up from the stupidity that I see so much. No, you don't have to do full bike position on the street. No, an exhaust is actually pointless for riding. If you want to be a really good rider, invest in yourself. It's always upgrade the software. Forget about the damn hardware. You could leave that bike stock for a long, long time. And you don't have to do anything to upgrade the bike to go faster or to be better. That's all dependent on you. It's not dependent on the bike. Of course, there are purchases that make sense. You want to get better mirrors or more comfortable seat, obviously. But I'm talking about trying to upgrade the bike's power in order to make you go faster, if that's what you want to do. You are the limiting factor. The bike is not. I guarantee you that. So pick up a couple of my books. That's what really helps me out and allows me to continue to grow and keep on doing these free practice sessions for free and one-on-ones and everything else that I do. I don't charge anybody anything because of amazing people that support me and get my books and support me on Patreon, blah, 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 whatever else. So check out MotoJitsu.com for everything else, and hopefully you guys learned something new. If not, maybe you thought about what I talked about in a different way. Or maybe you now have a better language or a reference to go to. If a buddy you have is thinking about getting an actual full fairing, no kidding, clip-on sport bike, maybe you have a little bit more tips or bullets you could give them about maybe steer them in a different direction. Of course, some people have to touch the stove to realize it's hot, and some people have to buy a $15,000 bike to realize, wow, I'm actually a terrible rider and this is a dumb idea. Maybe some people have to go through that just like I did. But if there could be just even one person that would rethink their purchasing to get on a bike that actually makes more sense for them and their goals, what they want, then that's the point. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later.